video gonna be shown in 1 second is Ben Shapiro destroying racism in America. He absolutely destroys these two people on the left because he dazzles them with facts and they don't like it. Oh no, that's not true. And then he says the facts, and you just watch them sit there and like, people don't like facts. They call them racist. They call them this, that, the other. It's not racist. Facts don't care about your colour, your religion, your sexual preference. They're facts. And it's just funny, and that's why I've linked it. I've done this on my channel because I think he's brilliant, Ben Shapiro, and he destroys these people. And I wish we had more people like that in the UK, but it's not politically correct anymore. Cheers for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you can. Thank you.
On the Black Lives Matter idea, I want to find the people. I want to find the people alongside you who think Black lives don't matter. I'm still looking for those people. Really, I mean, like the implication is, of course, that for a bunch of people out there, for some reason, they're fine with black people getting shot in the street for no reason. Hands up, don't shoot was based on a lie. That's problematic. The idea that there is a huge number of black young men who are being shot for no reason by police officers is not statistically true. It's just not statistically true. The fact is that according to statistical studies at John Jay College, if you're a white man in a similar confrontation with police, you have a better chance of being shot by police than if you are a young black man. More white men are shot by the police every year in the country than young black men are shot by police in the country. The idea that there is a spate, and there's an easy proof. We know all of their names. We know all of their names. When there are 30 million black men in America. Okay, when we know President Obama said that we have a spate, it's a slow rolling crisis. Once every couple of weeks we have a case that's under dispute. So let's take his statistic. Okay, so let's say it's 26. Not one is too many, and we all agree. But is it really a slow rolling crisis with a broad trend across the nation when there are 30 million black people in the entire country? And 26 people are shot under disputed circumstances, and probably at least half of those, the cop is at least justified. In Michael Brown, he was justified. Okay, and so basing it on falsities, you can't base a narrative on lies.
We're running out of time.
Well, I agree it's not, but is it racism or government venality? I mean, as I say about it, is it racism or government being corrupt? Meaning that in the city of Seattle, for example, they can't fill a pothole, but they become evil geniuses when it comes to the parking meters. Right?
According to Pew Research, the net worth of white families in 2013 was $141,000. For black families, it was $11,000, even less than the $19,000 it was in 2007. According to economist Edward Wolf of the University of New York, excluding vehicles and other durables, the median black family worth is just $1,700, while 40% of black families have zero or negative wealth. White family worth, in terms of financial worth, is 69 times more than that of black families. Given this disparity, how can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't, you know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
I look at the Baltimore uprisings as more than just riots, right? I hate the idea when you say thugs and riots, right? White people riot as well. When y'all win Super Bowls 2 years in a row, y'all get off the hook. Don't make it seem like it's just Baltimore getting upset. So my 30-second answer is I feel the frustration of what's happening in the community, and I think it's a symptom. The uprisings are a symptom of a pressure that's been unaddressed for too long.
Ben?
I'm offended by the language of uprising applied to people who are breaking into other black people's stores and looting them. This is a lack of values, and people who are destroying private property, destroying cop cars, in an uprising against what exactly? Against the black police chief, against a mostly minority police force, against the black mayor, against the black president, against the black attorney general, against against a city council that is 9 of 15 are black and all 15 are elected Democrats. What is the uprising against? What is it seeking to achieve? I still don't see what exactly the riots are seeking to achieve. Bottom line is, this is all. It all could be boiled down to just act like a mensch. Act like a human being. Honestly, it's not useful to riot, it's not useful to break things, it's not useful to throw rocks at people. And the idea that we're supposed to sort of correlate your level of outrage.
I'm going to stick to the 30 seconds on this.
Yeah, the last sentence. The last sentence. The idea that we're supposed to correlate your level of outrage with a certain level of justification. In other words, the more outraged you are and the more angry you are, the more justified you must be, is absolute nonsense. The question that I was going to ask, though, is it's not any person of color, I assume. I mean, if they decided that they were going to staff the school board, for example, with Ward Connerly and Thomas Sowell and Condoleezza Rice and Clarence Thomas, you'd be standing up against that and saying that these are not real black people, I assume. Well, really? Boy, I need to get Thomas Sowell to run over there. No, really, I mean, because
the argument, I mean, that's
culture,
something that's beautiful.
Color.
That's what makes America great. That's what makes our society work, is when you've got the reflection of those who, it's the same argument of what we see in the courtrooms. What happens when you have the judicial, the judges who are primarily white, when you have folks who are sitting in front of the courtrooms who are of a different color. You try to bring that balance so that those who are representing or in those positions of power reflect the service needs or that community that they're serving.
But if
we
I'm not
want it in
mistaken,
the classroom, we want it in the courtroom, we want it in
If I'm not mistaken,
politics.
the NAACP opposed, for example, the nomination of Janice Rogers Brown to the Supreme Court. So, in other words, Janice Rogers Brown is a judge on the D.C. Circuit who's black. The point that I'm making is that it's odd to consider that all black people have the same experience. It's not accurate, meaning that if you're talking about mirroring the experiences of kids in the classroom so that you can identify what's special about these kids, presumably the criteria should not be the color of their skin, but the character of their experience.
During World War II, somebody wanted to sell arms to the Germans. That was cool, right?
That's a national security threat and was illegal for a reason. That's not freedom of association.
Oh, so but now we have qualifications. Okay.
No. It's called an externality to a relationship. There are no externalities to a relationship where you come into my business and I say I'm not serving you. It's you and me, and a consensual transaction has not taken place. If I sell you a nuclear weapon, there are probably going to be ramifications to me selling you a nuclear weapon.
Our comfort zone, especially when it comes to discrimination, not just on race, but also on gender, also on sexuality. I think those affirmative, deliberate steps and protections by the government is a good thing.
Well, it's competition. That's why competition is there. I mean, really, this is why competition is there. Competition is designed to do this. I mean, if I could hire nobody but women at 77 cents on the dollar to do the exact same work as men, and everybody else were stupid enough not to hire any of the women, I'd be the richest man in America.
You feel that stomach thing too, see? Go ahead.
I mean, I love these potential worlds. I mean, it's true. I mean, I really would love to see that world go into place, but it doesn't happen.
It does, though. And according to Time Magazine 2010, in the 50 biggest cities in America, women with the exact same educational levels, time in the workforce, number of children, they earn 104% of what men do. According to Time Magazine, you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that, and again, it's just I'm sorry. It's just like, I mean, for the longest time, it was a really big issue here in Europe and here in USA and in Europe about child labor laws. Now, basically, I could also make a ton of money if I got a bunch of kids that do, a bunch of operations and use them up between basically the ages of like 14 and 18, and I could make a ton of money. I mean, and why shouldn't I be allowed to do that?
Because they're not capable of full consent. That's the difference between a minor and a major.
Oh, so another qualification. Okay, all right, okay.
No, Charles, I can't enter into any contractual relationship of any kind with a 5-year-old.
I can't sell nuclear bombs to Hitler. I can't exploit children. Okay.
I'm sorry to limit you like this, Charles.
What are you giving me?
I'm ruining your life here. You can't sell nukes to people. You can't exploit 5-year-olds. I mean, boy, I'm really rough around here.
My point is that regulations and qualifications are necessary.
Right, I'm not an anarchist.
Yeah.
I'm a libertarian. There's a difference.
Let me move on, and if you want to come back to that, that's fine at some other point. But you had mentioned, Dr. Seacrest, that you had mentioned that we have to go back to history. So this is what I want to challenge Ben on history. On your show, Ben, you said that you believe the 1964 Civil Rights Act was flawed. How is that different from telling black Americans that they should have to continue enduring the endless indignities of racial discrimination and segregation that a war and constitutional amendment could not change?
Okay, so when I talked about the Civil Rights Act of 64, what I said was flawed about the Civil Rights Act of 64 was not 8 of the 10 titles that talk about what the government can and cannot do. What I said was flawed is the government forcing private business owners into doing things. Because Jim Crow was the government forcing private owners into doing things. Jim Crow was not an informal regime of private business owners doing things. It was actual laws on the books forcing businesses to discriminate against people. I mean, you can look up the Jim Crow laws. They were statutory. They were present in the South. The point that I was making is that it's a very dangerous precedent once you start saying that the government gets to dictate how you run your business, especially given the fact that capitalism does take care of this problem in the sense that the only color that matters under capitalism is basically green. And because the only color that matters is green, if you discriminate against someone in your business, this is why Jim Crow laws were actually imposed in the first place. If you look at the history, the reason that Jim Crow laws were enforced in the first place in the South, and they didn't take place in other parts of the country, the reason Jim Crow laws were necessary is because they tried to set up an informal regime of discrimination against blacks, and that didn't work because business owners were cheating because they wanted to get black people's money. And so what happened is that the government came in and they said, okay, no longer can you do this. And the Civil Rights Act, instead of saying, okay, get rid of the Jim Crow laws, which of course is totally appropriate, and those were unconstitutional to begin with under the 14th Amendment, instead of just doing that, the government went to the extreme of, now we are going to dictate what you do with your business. Now, I may very well agree that people, and I do agree, in fact, that people who discriminate against black folks in their business are evil and wrong and nasty and deserve to be boycotted and put out of business. I agree with all of that. I just don't agree with the fundamental principle that the government gets to tell you what you can and cannot do with your business for the same reason that I think there's freedom of association. I think black historical colleges should be allowed to be black historical colleges if they want to be, and they shouldn't be forced to admit white people if they don't want to. In a very nutshell way, all I would say is that I'm sure that I would have experienced challenges that are different than the challenges that I've experienced as, for example, a Jew in America. Well, thank God I'm a Jew in America. This is the greatest country to Jews in the history of the world. As far as, you know, what it would be like to be a black person, I grew up with 2 incredible parents. I grew up in a stable household, in a safe area. And, you know, I think that I understand why people would be warier of police officers, given the fact that many police officers are going to react to disproportionate crime statistics with stereotypes. I understand that. But as far as the idea that, you know, I think the reason that David is asking the question, I don't want to question the questioner and go Newt Gingrich style, but I think that the reason that David's asking the question is because there is this idea out there that every person who is born white is born privileged. And I don't think that that is accurate, just as I don't think that every person who is born black is born into a horrible situation. I think that we're all born individuals, and if we can start seeing each other that way, we'll all be a lot better off.